When I conceived of Muscle Car Madness in 2006, the prices of these old Detroit muscles from the 60s and 70s was absolutely, it was going through the roof. At that time, Barrett-Jackson was the show, the place to be to buy and sell old muscle cars. I'd been sensing this since about 2005 when the prices really started to go up. And so in 2006, two men, Mr. Rand and Mr. Workman, were some conventioneers, or they put on shows or something like that right in Manhattan. They were putting together a luxury showcase of high-end jewelry and things of that sort, and they were bringing in some of the rarest, high-end, most expensive muscle cars that were in the world in 2006. So of course there was a $5 million Hemi, or they were asking $5 million. The car actually brought in $4 million. The man turned it down. There were just all kind of these rare cars, and that's where it started for me right there, was a countdown right on the spot. You know, the ZL1s and the Cornet RT Hemi convertibles, all very rare. But there was one car there that is the thing that I really wanted to get, which was the rarest production Camaro muscle car in the world. It was a one-on-one, one-off car, a fascinating story. And I was able to film the car, talk to the owner, and get the information about the history of the car. The owner's name was Al Maynard. The car had been an original Pete Estes. He was an executive for General Motors, and Mr. Maynard explained to us why the car was built as it was at that time. He was wanting $1.5 million for it. He did not get it, but the weird part was that he told me that somebody had stolen the original paperwork, bill of sale and bill sheet and everything for the car. It was stolen at that location and at that auction. He did not have any paperwork to document the car. Well, as I stated, he did not sell the car, but then apparently, from my understanding, Dana Meekum bought the car and the paperwork showed up somehow. Again, that's about 15 years ago, and now I believe Meekum still owns the car and hadn't been seen since. So I'm glad that I did get the footage of it and then I could bring it to you. The world's rarest muscle car.
You know what this means? The gloves are on. For the last 13 weeks, we've been counting down from 13 to 1. This is what we've been waiting on. The rarest muscle car in the world. I have got my hand on it right now. General Motors, the division, Chevrolet, the car, Camaro, the model, Z28. Now, you may be saying to yourself, Rico, what was so special about a Camaro in 68 and Z28? Nothing. Really, about 4,000 cars were made. How many cars were made in convertible? I'll tell you how many. One vehicle, production vehicle made in 68, Camaro Z28 convertible. This is the one, the rarest muscle car ever produced in the world, coming out of Detroit, United States, right here. I love it. Not only do I have the rarest muscle car in the world right here in front of me on magazine after magazine. Here it is. You can see it right here. The rarest car is here. I have the owner of the rarest muscle car in the world, Mr. Al Maynard. Now, tell us about, when did you get the car? Tell us a little bit about the car.
I've had the car for approximately 6 years. I got it from another collector. This car was lost for about 23 years down in Ohio. The car was originally built for Pete Estes, who was a general manager of Chevrolet and VP of GM.
Back in the early, mid-60s,
yeah,
late
July
60s.
July of 1968. He was, he liked convertibles, and they were trying to get the funding, get him to approve the funding for the Trans Am program for Roger Penske. And to do this, they wanted to show him the equipment that was available, and for him to sign off on it. Because they spent a lot of money on Trans Am racing back in those days. They knew he wouldn't drive a hardtop. Pete Estes loved convertibles. Every car, all of his company cars were convertibles, not hardtops. So if they put this powertrain in a hardtop, he wouldn't have driven it. So they decided, they went to the central office, Chevrolet, and pulled some strings and had this car built for him specially. This powertrain was not released in a convertible at all. It was not available. This car was built in Norwood, Ohio, on the assembly line, just went down like a regular car, but they did it in a convertible, the Z28 with all, and they optioned it out. The car's got just about every option. It's not a rally sport because of the camshaft and the vacuum headlights. They didn't make it a rally sport, but
it was a production car. I want to make that clear. This was not a prototype. It was a production car.
This was a production car built in Norwood, Ohio, and they sent it up to the Chevrolet Engineering Center. So what they did is they outfitted this car with all of the rare Trans Am parts. It's got the cross ram, it's got the factory headers, it's got Coney shocks with GM part numbers on it, it's got four-wheel disc brake, which they call the JL8 option, and then they put the J56 Corvette calipers on it. It's got fiberglass hood. All of the Trans Am pieces were installed on this car at the Chevrolet Engineering Center. It has a transistor ignition. Just all the hot rod stuff was installed on this car.
Speaking of the interior, let's take a look. Let's take a close look. Come on, let's go through the interior right now. Let's just do it. All right, now I want to look inside. Al, take us through the interior of the rarest muscle car in the world.
Well, since they were building this car for Pete Estes, general manager of Chevrolet, they maxed this car out. They loaded it up with every option they could possibly put on this car with the road race options. It's got the quadraphonic stereo. It's got rear window defogger. It has a fold-down back seat, power windows, tilt steering wheel, AM/FM radio, and they put every option they possibly could on this. It does not have a power top because of the fold-down back seat and the rear window defogger. They couldn't put a power top on it, but it has all their options. It's got the wood steering wheel. Everything was available. They put on this car.
What are the four knobs there on the console?
That's a quadraphonic stereo, which they had in 1968. It was an option for all their models. You could get that in an Impala or a Caprice. They call it a quad stereo.
Well, I'll tell you what, it looks like it looks like Pete never drove the thing. It's absolutely flawless.
He did drive the car, and they actually got their funding for their Trans Am program, so the car did what it was supposed to do. We also have pictures of this car as a pace car at Road America with Sterling Moss driving this car, so it's got a lot of history, which most of these muscle cars that are bringing high dollars now don't have.
Tell us everything about this engine.
This is basically a 302 motor. It has a service package road race camshaft in it. It has the dual quad cross ram manifold with the cowl induction and a fiberglass hood. It also has, these are factory exhaust headers on the car, which is built by Chevrolet, which were available. All of these parts were available to anybody who wanted to buy them.
Muscle Car Madness was an idea I had back in 2004 after I was watching the Barrett Jackson, the Mecum, and all these other car auctions. The prices of muscle cars were going through the roof. I was a car guy, lived in Tarpon Springs, Florida at the time, and there were a bunch of muscle car dealers in the area, and I thought, gosh, I need to try to, I was doing some film work anyway. I was producing 3 other television shows at the time, or these were pilots anyway, and I thought I should, we should go and try to find some of these very rare cars, at least put them on camera, because now they're coming out of the woodwork. People are starting to see that these cars are bringing in these astronomical numbers, and now these very, very rare and high-end Detroit muscle cars are coming out of the private collections. So over this year, it was like 6 months, I think, I had mapped out where these auctions were and what cars were going to be there, and then I was able to pinpoint 13 extremely rare, sometimes one-off muscle cars, and that was going to be the hook of the show. So the car, we would be at an auction, we would talk to the owners, we would get some background information of these rare cars at these auctions or at these events, and then I would feature an extremely rare car counting down from 13 to 1, and the number 1 car, or the 13th episode, would have been the rarest production Detroit muscle car ever built. And I actually found that car at the auction, the Rand Workman auction in New York, and as far as I know, It hadn't been filmed since, but the man who owned the car at that time has since died. So I was glad I was at least able to, get the car on camera. We went all over the place. New York for the Rand Workman. I went down to West Palm Beach at an R&M auction down there. There was a 1970 GTO Judge convertible, a Ram Air car that I think there was only just a handful of them made. We were at Kissimmee at the Mecum auction, and while I was in Kissimmee, I had heard of a place called the Mustang Ranch where an older man had, sort of put away dozens of old Mustangs that he was working on them. They wasn't really high-end cars, but they were everywhere. They were barns, Mustangs in barns. They were all over the place, called the Mustang Ranch. Went to Rogers Corvette Center. They had a Corvette show out there one day, and then Roger would not be interviewed, but his son was, David. And so I interviewed David, spent all day with him. We showed that he was able to show us all of the cars that were for sale and go through all of the differences in the from 84 to 2005, and then we went through all of Roger's personal collection to include that extremely rare 1969 ZL1. We shot over to Ocala and did some filming with Big Daddy Don Garlitz, who also had either one or two very rare. In fact, I think he had the rarest of Hemi, a four-door Cornet that was used, I think, by the FBI. There was only two of them allegedly was made. I found a red one up in Illinois. Don Garlitz had a white one in his museum in Ocala, Florida. We shot up to Illinois where another muscle car auction was being held, and I was able to document a very, very rare Hemi Daytona. Mecum was up in Illinois as well, and they had an auction going on for 5 Yankos at the same time. In fact, I've never seen anything like that since. Went up to the Volo Museum up in Illinois, where the owner, Greg Grams, gave us a complete tour of all of the facilities. They're fascinating, all of the things that are in that compound, but also he gave us access to an extraordinarily one-off prototype of a GT500, experimental GT500. So the show was going to be aired on Spike TV. So I had a preliminary deal with them that I would submit one completed show, and this was going to be the Corvette show with the 69 ZL1. So I submitted the show to them, and the idea was I was going to buy 30 minutes of block time from them. Once I had the commitment on Spike, then I was going to sell the show to different sponsors, people, oil companies or wax companies or something like that. I had the commitment from Spike, and that was going to give me the funds enough to get the rest of the episodes edited. The Corvette show did not come out like I wanted it. It was, it wasn't edited properly. I didn't think it was anyway. But anyway, all I had to go with, I sent it over to Spike TV. They rejected it, and I told them, "Look, I'll buy the time. It's not like I'm trying to get you to pick up the show. I will buy the time." But then they said, "No, those 30-minute blocks, those are for infomercials, and this is not an infomercial." So then I told them, "Look, I'll make it an infomercial. Within the show itself, we'll have a major sponsor, an oil company, a wax company, something, and then we'll sell the product within the show." But they just turned it down, so they sort of reneged on their deal. Well, I had already had, all the footage shot, had the one show done, so we went out to the NATPE show, the NAPTE NATPE show out in Las Vegas, trying to sell that show or any other 3 shows that I had. I made it on the Jay Leno show to even try to pitch it, but I didn't know anyone in the industry, and none of my shows got picked up. I had spent about 2 or 3 years on these projects and got nowhere. Spent a fortune on them, so I had to move on. Right? I mean, I did up the best I could, and I couldn't spend any more time on them, so I went forward. That was in 2005. Here I am now in 2021. My life has been totally, I went in a totally different direction. Went back to college, got my doctorate in sports psychology, and I just forgot about Muscle Car Madness. I put some clips up on YouTube many years ago, but recently there's been some traffic over to those sites, over to that YouTube section of my YouTube, that part where Muscle Car Madness was living. And I thought, I should put that footage up there so that all the car people that are out there could at least see these cars, because as far as I know, some of them, they were brought out for these auctions, they were purchased, and then they've gone back into a private auction. So this footage I've got is 15 years old, 16 years old, I think. And I'm going to cobble it all together and put it up on YouTube, and at least give people the opportunity to see these old cars, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I did. But be sure and subscribe, and if you do like, hit that like button, and then hit that bell, that notification button as well. I'm going to try to put up a new video every, I'd say, 2 to 3 days. And I'd love to hear from you, your comments, because many of you have seen these cars in the past and you've got a story to tell as well. I enjoyed going around the country filming these cars because I'm a car guy myself, and so I hope you enjoy watching some of this crazy stuff that I was doing at that time. And if you do, like I said, please leave a comment below. Thank you.